We got a lot going on out there. Did anybody get caught in some traffic getting in here? Yeah, so it's busy. We have an over $1 billion project out there that's causing a lot of backups. Now, I don't know if maybe a lot of you live in places where you don't have to deal with it on a daily basis. If you're in a large population center, it's just a daily stress. But whether it's something you have only happen infrequently or it's something that is part of your daily commute, I've learned one thing about traffic, and that is it always sucks. It's always a bad experience. It's always stressful. It's always, it's hard on your joy. Now, you would think in this divided country that we live in, that would be an opportunity for us to find some common ground. That when we find ourselves stuck with so many other people, we can look around, we ought to lower the windows and say, brothers and sisters in gridlock, join with me here and let's sing Kumbaya until they move that disabled truck to the shoulder. But we don't do that. Now, why don't we do that? We don't do it because when you're in traffic, you can bear me out on this, when you're stuck in traffic, everybody else besides you is an idiot. Isn't that true? And it is most bewildering, frustrating, infuriating experience because there you are stuck in this backup. And everybody's actions around you are just making you mad and stressed. I haven't moved for the last 10 minutes, and all of a sudden, somebody comes tooling up the breakdown lane. Oh, are you an EMT? I didn't know you were driving Kia Souls. They've been telling us for the last 5 miles the left lane is closed ahead, merge right. You're going to wait to the last 100 feet and slide over in front of me? I don't think so, pal. And then you close it up. Have you done that? They're like, you're not getting in here. Adjudicating the traffic jam. I've done it. I've been there. Now, you would think, now this is something that we all deal with. There's an opportunity here. My dad, when I was 15 years old, and I was looking forward in the next few months to getting my driver's permit, and he had me beside him on the seat, and everywhere we went, he was giving me tutorials. He was giving me instruction. And one day I saw this traffic jam forming up ahead, saw the brake lights. I thought, Dad's not going to be happy about this. I said, Dad, look at that. And instead of being mad, he saw a teaching moment. He looked at me and he said, you want to see how to solve a traffic jam? And I thought, my dad's losing it. If he thinks that's delusional, because if there's anything you're helpless in the midst of, it's that. Because you don't even know what's happening. Sometimes, after you get through, you don't know what happened. You just threw it and you think, I don't know what that was about. There was no construction, there was no accident, and yet we're moving again. I don't understand. But my dad was serious. He said, I'll show you how to solve a traffic jam if you want to learn. I said, oh yeah, let's hear this. He said, you just got to do 2 things, Dave. He said, you just have to stay off the brake and make room. And that was it. And with that, he started opening up space between himself and the next car ahead of him. And of course, what do people do when the lanes aren't moving? They start cutting in, right? People behind us, they didn't like that. They honked their horns, they flashed their lights, they made rude gestures. I said, Dad, they're getting mad. He said, I can't worry about that. He said, because you know what? If you're going to solve a problem that's going to solve for a lot of people, sometimes there are people who are not going to understand. I said, Dad, as I watch people slide in there late in the game, I said, it's not fair. He said, I can't worry about that either. He said, because Dave, sometimes a solution to a big problem isn't going to align with your sense of fairness. Now, that's some pretty high-level leadership thinking, I think, because he had to ignore the horn honking. Nobody gave him credit. Once we were through it, nobody pulled up beside him and said, you, sir, are visionary. I stand corrected. They were still mad. And yet he didn't worry about the credit. He didn't mind absorbing the blame. He ignored the horn honking. He stayed off the brake, and he made room. And I thought, wow, that is really impressive, but I really can't say that I was convinced in that moment that that was a solution, because once we got through, he said, see, it worked. I said, maybe. And I never really fully believed it until 2017. I'm down in Atlanta, Georgia, after a program. I'm at the hotel, and they gave us a free copy of the Wall Street Journal. And I open up the page, and this is what I see. One driver can prevent a traffic jam using exactly the techniques that Dad said to use, letting people cut in freely. But that takes a certain mindset shift to not worry about who does and doesn't deserve the solution to the problem. It takes a mindset shift to not worry about getting credit and maybe some of the horn honking. Now, I know that what you're dealing with is not traffic jams, but in a figurative sense, you probably deal with a lot of things you can't control. And so today, we just want to explore a little bit about, you may not be able to control traffic. Yeah, we can control how we drive and how we fuel ourselves for that drive. And the reason why that traffic technique works is simply this. There's this thing called reaction waves. And there's a whole mathematical formula that I don't understand to explain that entire experience. But it really comes down to this. One person hits the brake, and the person behind them brakes just a little bit harder. And that is amplified again and again until finally nobody's moving forward. And so if we look at that, we say, you know what, maybe there are some ways that I can change my mindset, how I drive, how I approach problems, and learn from a traffic jam to be able to figure out how I can use the power of one decision, one moment, just that power of one, to make my work a little better, to make my leadership more effective, to make my customers a little happier.